Good evening, everyone. I'm not sure how many people are already online, so probably we'll start in another 4 minutes time. So we'll give some space for everyone to join as well. So please stay tuned. I think we have 14 online for now. So let's give some room for more participants to join us. I think we'll be starting in another 1 minute time. Okay, I think it's already 7:05. We have around 16 participants, I guess. So let's start off with the day first. I think let others join on the go. So again, good evening, everyone. So welcome to the meetup of the Ministry of Testing, Kuala Lumpur. Okay, so this is Ministry of Testing, Kuala Lumpur meetup number 6. My name is Ram. Okay, I'm your host for today. So just a brief introduction. The main organization, the organization committee is Amir, and I myself, Nitin, are the co-organizers of MoT KL. So apart from that, I would also like to give a special shout out to engineers.my and FAST for making today's live streaming possible. All right, so special shout out to those guys. So what do we have in today's agenda is we have introduction and welcoming to the Ministry of Testing. And then after that, we will move on to what is Agile for Testers by Anuraj SL. And following up by that is we'll just wrap up the session and some online tutorial. Okay. Okay. So first thing, just going to give a small introduction to guys who have want to know about what is Ministry of Testing. So basically, Ministry of Testing is also referred as MoT. It's a global software testing community. It is founded by 𝗪𝗠𝘀𝗁. Okay, so pretty much it's a global community. So what we have here is that we have Learn on the Dojo, where you can find full catalog articles, talks, podcasts, courses, mostly related to software testing. So apart from learning, we also the community's purpose is also to connect with the community. So we do that through the club, MoT Slack, testers chat, feeds, and newsletter. And also, Ministry of Testing, they have a lot of events. So one of the most famous one is Test Bash, where they have largest global testing events, which is done yearly. And then we have meetups, like the one we're having now. And then we have Mastery of the Ministry, master classes, testing, Ask Me Anything. So also, if you guys want to contribute to the Ministry of Testing, you guys can write, speak, teach, review, and also advertise. So those are the things which Ministry of Testing provides platform for this kind of stuff. Right. So next, I would like to also introduce the 5 principles for today's talk. So the number 1 is be human, be kind, be respectful, be supportive and inclusive, and most importantly, be open-minded. So these are the principles which we always carry forward into our talks, right? Okay, so for today's talk, I'm pretty sure you guys have a lot of questions as the talks goes on. So what I want you guys to do is that you guys can take your phone and scan this QR code. We use slido.com and please insert the code MoTKL6. So where you guys can just shoot all your questions there first. So towards the end of the talk, I will be picking up all the questions and then we can bring up for discussion. So I'm just going to give you guys like 1 minute. Please take some time and scan this QR code and stand by the Slido on your site. Don't forget to put in the code as well, MoTKL6. So you guys will be seeing a web view of Slido. Okay, I think that should be enough time for everyone to scan. If you guys need any further assistance, just put it in the chat. I think one of our co-organizers, they will just assist you guys with that, right? Okay, so moving on to today's talk. So the topic for today is what is Agile for Testers? So this talk is by Anuraj SL. So I would just like to give a small introduction about Anuraj. First of all, I would like to congratulate Anuraj on becoming a certified Kanban coach recently. So we kind of got that information from your LinkedIn. So I would like to personally congratulate you on that. So for the audience, just to give you guys a bit context who Anuraj is. So Anuraj pretty much is a professional where he wears multiple hats in the world of Agile, product management, and quality engineering. He has also co-created several Agile transformation leadership programs across global market leaders in the Europe, UK, Switzerland, Southeast Asia, and India. So pretty much this guy knows his stuff. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Anuraj to please take the stage.
Oh, sorry guys, I was on mute. I have been
Oh,
delivering a speech for minutes, but no one was hearing me. So I really would like to thank Ram for giving a wonderful introduction for me. Thanks a lot, Ram.
no.
And and guys, let me first share my screen. Mhm. Okay. So yeah. So first of all, I hope you all guys are having a great evening and being healthy. Due to which this pandemic situation, I think yeah, stay safe, stay healthy. Okay, right. So well, as Ram has introduced, my name is Anuraj. I'm working as a Agile coach in 𝗟𝗶𝗿 and leading the QA wing of 𝗔𝗯𝘀𝘁𝗿𝗄 Global, one of the software development company in India. As you all know, I'm here today to discuss with you about the topic Agile for Testers, right? And let me tell you, there is a big defect in this title. Can you find it out? Let's start with a small challenge. Can anyone tell me what is the defect with this title, Agile for Testers? I'm looking for your replies in the chat if anyone is typing. Seems like no one is typing. Okay, fine. So, well, if you cannot, let's continue discussing, and maybe at the end, some of you might have answer for this. Let's see. So today I'm here just to share what I know a little bit about Agile and testing. Oh, sorry, Amir has just sent one Agile wording. Is that wrong? No, it's right. That's not the one. Agile is not for testers only. Wow, Fasa, you have nailed it. Exactly what said by Fasa. Agile is not for testers only. That's right. So that's the answer. We should give a big round of applause to Fasa. Okay, let me continue. So yeah, as I said, I'm here to share my little knowledge with you about Agile and testing, and I'm trying to learn from you guys about it so that I can verify what I know is correct, right? 𝗟𝗲𝗿𝗂𝘀𝗁𝗂𝘁𝗲𝗿𝗀. It's for team. Yes, you're right. So before we jump in, I would like to know a bit around the audience here so that I can adjust my conversations accordingly. Because since this is a testing session, we will be gossiping about the developers for sure, right? And if I need to safeguard myself, I need to make sure that at least majority of the people here are testers, right? So actually, I'm going to talk against the testers today. Please bear with me. So please take your handphones, go to that link. I'll show you a link right now. Just a moment. Go to menti.com, enter the code. So I'll be sharing another screen now. So I would like to know how many of you are developers, test engineers, test leads, stakeholders, and still don't know who you are. Huh. So you can just go to that menti.com and enter the code. Okay. We have 2 test engineers. 3 test engineers, 4, 5. Oh, 1 is still confused, just like me. Okay, 6, 7. Oh, 1 test lead or manager, 2 test lead or manager, 9 test engineers. 2 of them is still confused. Okay. Okay, I think you can keep doing it. I just got an idea of most of the people here are test engineers, so I'm safe right now. Let me stop sharing this and start sharing the slide. Okay, so before we start discussing about Agile and testing, let me just tell you, like, there is not one right path for anything, right? There are different ways. Even in Agile, when we preach Agile for teams, what we used to tell them is like, there is no one right way to be successful. You can choose your own path. So whatever works for you is the best. So it's completely up to you to choose which is the right path. So what we'll be discussing here today will be some perspectives, some opinions, just to flat up the discussion so that we can go on with the discussion, right? So, and another thing which I would like to tell you is, like, I would like to bring 3 simple truths in software development before we jump start into our session. So it is impossible to gather all the requirements at the beginning of a project. That is the first truth in the software development that we need to approve, right? And whatever requirements you do gather are guaranteed to change. So change is the only thing which is constant, right? Which is happening throughout. And third one is, like, there will always be more to do than time and money will allow. Always. It ends up like this only, always, right? So do you guys agree with me on this? So this has actually been, I have read this somewhere in a book called The Agile Samurai by Jonathan. If you want, you can also just, I have given the reference. So do you guys agree with me? Okay. Okay. Anyways, let's continue with the session. Change is inevitable, yes. Okay. So so if you accept these 3, let me just explain it a little bit more. Like, accepting the first truth means you're not afraid to begin your journey without knowing everything upfront. Okay. And accepting the second means you no longer fear or avoid change. You know it is coming. It is on its way, right? And by accepting the third, you no longer get stressed when your to-do list exceeds your time and resources to deliver. So these are the facts which we need to accept. We need to tell our brain and mind that this is how it is going to work moving on. So first we need to accept it. So once you accept these 3 simple project truths, trust me, much of the stress and anxiety traditionally associated with software delivery disappears. You're then able to think and innovate with a level of more focus, and you have more clarity into it, right? Okay. So let's jump start. What is Agile? I am pretty sure many of them here might be knowing a basic idea of what is Agile, but still, if anyone wants to, let me just explain, because it's a lengthy description. So if you keep on typing it, it is going to take a lot of time. We are just out of time right now. So Agile is a mindset. If you Google what is Agile, we will get a lot of, like a lot of definitions and descriptions. And I picked up this one just to give you a bit more clarity in terms of what Agile is, or why we need to be Agile, all those kind of stuffs. So Agile is a mindset, actually. It is not any, it's not a tool, or it's not a framework, methodology. Many people call it as a framework, methodology, a lot of things, a lot of definitions are there. And that is one of the biggest buzzwords in this industry right now. I know you guys will agree with me. So Agile is actually a mindset. It's just a mindset. described by 4 values, defined by 12 principles, and manifested in many practices, right? So if you are going to discuss in detail about these values, principles, and practices, I don't think we'll have enough time for that. So I'm just going to concentrate on that 4 values, because that is the basement. That are the 4 pillars of Agile, right? So what are those 4 values? Okay, so before jumping on to that values, let me just explain Agile in a way that you can understand it a bit more clearly, right? So I have this interesting analogy by Bob Hartman. So actually, we all like to eat food, right? And often few of us also like to cook food, right? So cooking has to be considered as an agile process. You certainly don't do everything upfront, then put it all together and finally find out at the end if the meal came out correctly, right? So that would be foolish and embarrassing more often than not. So now instead you test each ingredient for quality as you go along, right? So in fact, you will do what you call building quality in by removing more items as you chop them and determine they didn't meet your standards. You even test each dish at various points in time, right? To see if it is coming out right, if the salt is good enough, if you need to put more potatoes, tomatoes, whatever it is, maybe pepper, certain spices, if something seems off, right? So you wouldn't do this in specific time intervals, but you would definitely make sure at many points along the way, the meal was coming out the way you wanted it to come out, right? So you'd never just test it once at the end. You just, any of you would cook like you start cooking, you finish the entire process, and finally only you will taste it. I don't believe there is any process happening like that in cooking. So that is just common sense, right? So yeah, that is what I'm doing for many years, trying to explain some common sense to the intelligent people out there, right? Just kidding. So yeah, Agile is just like a cooking process. So I hope you have a more clarity in terms of how Agile works or how Agile should work in any environment, let it be software or hardware, whatever it is, manufacturing, everywhere. So now let's go and look back into the 4 principles of Agile, sorry, 4 values of Agile. So Agile always recommends individuals and interactions over process and tools. And it's an irony that right now we are using a tool to communicate between each other, but what to do? All blames goes to coronavirus. Okay, so whenever you have to interact or you have to communicate with someone, try to do it face to face, or try to do it on an individual basis rather than just dropping a message in the email or in the chat or whatever it is. It also takes some time, and like when we used to communicate face to face, there is some psychology aspects as well related to it. Communication becomes more easy, it becomes more clear. We can even pass through our emotions, right, when we are seeing each other. So always try to do individuals and interactions over processes and the tools. And the second one is working software over comprehensive documentation. So this is what Agile always tries to implicate, like we will be focusing on some working software rather than spending a lot of time particularly for the comprehensive documentations, right? Particularly when it comes to testing, we all know, like we are having a lot of documents for testing, right? It's like your test case document, test plan, test strategy, test traceability metrics. I can even tell 10 or 15 documents particularly for testing. So if we are going to make all these documents at one stretch in a 2-week sprint, when are we going to release the working software? Do we have the real time for that? So Agile is not completely eliminating all these documents, but what Agile suggests is document only those things which is relevant, which is needed, or which is important. Okay, rather you should focus more into developing or releasing a working software, working increment of the product, right? And customer collaboration over contract negotiations, like we used to negotiate with the customer frequently, like this was what there in the contract, we did as per the contract, and the customer says like, you might have seen that famous comic like, I wanted a elephant and you gave me a horse, something like that. So try to collaborate more with the customer and try to understand what their needs are and try to deliver as per their expectations. Try to communicate properly, try to make things visible to the customer. So we always want to focus on the customer collaboration part of a contract negotiation and responding to change over following a plan. So when we talk about the definitions of Agile, one of the best and one of the ones which I like the most is Agile gives us that flexibility to change anytime, right? The world is not static, the world is dynamic, and we don't know when we need to turn around the directions, right? So, but whenever we need to have, we have such a requirement to turn around, we should be able to do that. That is why we are preaching Agile. So responding to change or following a steady plan. Okay, so these are the 4 values of Agile. That we can also say that these are the 4 pillars of Agile. I hope these things are clear for you guys. And there are a lot of ways to do Agile, and Scrum is just one way of being Agile. We have Kanban, we have extreme programming. We don't have enough time to discuss about all these things in detail. So let's just maybe focus on one way of doing Agile, that is Scrum. So I hope you all know Scrum, right? I'm not going even to get deeper into Scrum at all, because that itself is a big topic. Maybe we can discuss it later. So I just give you a pretty simple idea of what Scrum is, if anyone here doesn't know that. So Scrum is like, before in the waterfall model, we were having lengthy plannings and we make the product and we test it at the end, right? But in Scrum, what we normally do is we have shorter iterations of 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or maximum up to 4 weeks. And we do testing every 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So the lead time has been reduced. So we can always test something within a short period. And we are trying to release the product step by step, right? So if we want to incorporate any changes, then that is easy. So that is why we are following Scrum or Agile or whatever it is. So how testing is different in Agile than in a traditional project? So this is one such question which normally people used to ask. Like even when I was working as Agile coach in many of the organizations, we were having testing teams, but we were the team, I mean, the so-called development team focuses on the development and the testing team focuses on the testing. And there were a lot of silos in between, but still the organization used to say we are Agile, right? So that is fake Agile. So pretty much everything is explained even in the Scrum guide, like how we need to develop, how we need to collaborate, everything. But there is not much thing described about the testing. Do you know why? Because testing itself is a part of development team, as you mentioned before. So we shouldn't consider testing as a separate siloed team, right? So let me kind of tell a quick story about another industry. So I heard this story in a conference I attended a long time back by 𝗪𝗫𝗁. So do you know what is this? Can any of you identify what this image is? What is that? Just tell me what is that. Though it's not super important, but it's important for the story. Printing machine. Yeah, kind of, but not a printing machine. Okay. Okay, I'll tell. So it is a power loom. Have you heard about power loom? So power looms are machines which we use to weave clothes, right? To make clothes. Do you know India? I'm referring to India because I'm from India and I know many things about India. So India was one of the biggest power loom center before. So, but right now, India is actually one of the biggest consumer of silk. It's contradicting, right? So, do you know where the highest amount of silk is manufactured in the world? Any of you? The highest manufacturer of silk all over the world. Which country? Okay, so China is the highest manufacturer of silk in the world. They even have the famous silk routes and all. You might have heard about it, right? So China is one of the biggest silk manufacturing company, and most of it gets imported to India right now. But this was not the case 25 years ago. I don't know how many of you know that, but that's the truth. Why would have that changed so much? Right? So let's talk about how power loom used to run, right? So there used to be these buildings in which people would set up the power loom, and in the morning they would set up the thread and let it run throughout the day, and in the evening they would get a bunch of people who would sit in front of each other and they would check the clothes, right, to see if there is any defect in the clothes. What kind of defects? Like at times one of the thread would break, creating a defect in the clothes, or at times maybe insects would sit on the thread and would also get woven into the clothes, creating a defect, right? Or maybe some lump sum amount of thread itself get attached to it, so on. There are a lot of defects. So they would check for things like this, and they would find the defective pieces and they would remove it out, and the rest of it gets shipped to a silk retailer or a silk clothing manufacturer, whoever it is. Now, what they found very quickly was that actually, before I reveal that, what do you think they have found? Do any of you have any idea of what they have found? Okay, so okay, so throughout the day they run, and at the end of the day they bring a couple of people to come in and check the clothes. They remove or segregate the defective ones and ship out the good ones. So finally what they found was about 30% of the clothes were defect pieces. And you know something, like the profit margin was just about 20 to 25%. So the business is not going to scale or sustain, right? Which is why we have software companies now, or software warehouses in the same places where we had power looms before. And the history repeats itself, right? But these guys were smart people. Now they know how to deal with it. So developers build stuffs and they bring testers at the end of it, and then they test stuffs, they find defects. But I would say at least we are lucky in software. We don't have to throw it away. We can go back and fix it and then finally deploy it, right? So that is the kind of corollary that I'm trying to draw, right? Hang on with me for a couple of more minutes to understand the story. So do you know what was the part 2 of this story? So why did these guys, what these guys were doing? The problem was there was a big amount of defect day by day, right? Which eats up their profit, almost all their profits, and they don't have a viable business. So what did they do? Any idea? Yeah, a lot of waste or defect. Yes. So what did they do to avoid this situation? Any idea? So let me tell you. Instead of waiting until the end, they were thinking like, let's bring in someone in each loop, watching how things go by. And if a thread breaks, stop the loop, fix the thread, and let it run, right? So if an insect is somewhere near, just blow off your hands and move it away, right? So you're trying to control the quality there. So you have one person at each loop and make sure that things are not slipping out. So you don't have to wait until the end of the day to find that. Does it make sense? Does that idea make sense to you? Okay, so how did that go? What do you think? Will it solve their issues? Bringing in each people per loom and trying to work along with the hand loomer to avoid the issues or prevent the issues. Will this issue solve the problem? Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So a lot of you think it will solve the problem, right? Okay. Let me tell you, the second one, which I just described, is basically agile, but it's basically agile, but we are bringing in testers and making them part of the teams, the development team or Scrum team, whatever it is. So right. They are helping out and watching things as they go along. And surprisingly, we haven't seen any company successful with that model. That is the fact. It didn't work. And eventually, you know what happened to the Power Loom business? It was shut down still. Do you know why? So what was the problem with that model? They were trying to be agile. They tried to find out defects a little bit earlier, which is what we used to read in all the blogs, right? We should do as agile testers, but still it didn't work for them. So let's try and understand that before we jump into conclusions, right? So what happened is we tried to bring in more people per loom, which of course will raise my operating cost, right? The operating cost went up beyond my expectations, right? Because now you have to pay these guys not just 2 hours salary, because before it was like they were working only in the evenings, but now they are working full time. Now you have to pay them full salary, right? And that's one part of the story. What else? What else could have been happened? Any idea? The productivity or output, that is what the loom could produce in a day, went down. That is, if a loom could produce 100 meters of clothes, let's say, in a day, it went down to 80 meters or 75 meters. So why it went down? See, I am only producing 75 meters and I'm paying these guys more money right now, right? So net, what is the profit? And net, what I'm getting at the end of the day. Plus, I have to manage the labor. At least in India, you should know that managing the labor is one of the biggest headache, right? So it's not that easy. Someone doesn't show up. What do? Shut down the loom. Someone has to go for a tea or a coffee. What do? Shut down the loom, right? So the productivity actually went down massively. So what your loom was able to produce in a day went down significantly, right? So compare this to agile testing. What we do? We as testers come in, or the companies or organizations bring in testers to the Scrum team. As developers produce stuffs, the testers keep on testing. Can we ship things at the end of it by doing so? No, right? Unfortunately, we cannot, because we have the pile of regression that we need to do, right? Because a lot of things are modified, a lot of changes are made. It will, of course, affect a lot of existing items in the, which is working, which is already tested and shipped. So we have to do all these pile of regression. So it is also not going to work. At the end, we cannot ship the product. So have we really benefited from this model? We have not, right? No, the looms get benefited, and that is why they shut down. But what was China or Japan do differently that they actually are the world leaders today in manufacturing silk? They succeeded because they did something differently, right? I'm sure you all might be familiar with this company called Toyota, right? The car company. So I don't know how many of you know, like the parent company to Toyota was actually Toyota, not T, it was D, Toyota. So they were into loom manufacturing. And interestingly, that is what funded Toyota as a car company. Interesting, right? So pretty much everything you hear about the lean manufacturing or Kanban actually comes from the parent company, that is the Toyota. So what did they do differently? So they looked at looms. In fact, this is during World War. They had the shortage of people and they had to produce more clothes. So they understood we cannot deploy people. So we need to solve this problem differently. So they analyzed, and what was the maximum reason for the defects in the cloth? So they tried to find out the root cause. They did a root cause analysis. And the first reason they found was the thread breaking because of the tension in the threads, and that causing defects in the clothes. So what did they do to solve the problem? So instead of throwing more people at the problem, they asked, can we mistake-proof the process? Can we mistake-proof the manufacturing such that the defects are not put in first place? And we don't need all these people hanging around trying to check things, because just inspection was considered a waste of work since that time, I guess. So the simple thing they did was, actually the threads are in the bottom of the machine from where they go up into the loom. So they basically put small levers on each thread. So if the thread breaks, the lever goes and jams the machine. It was a very trivial idea patented by Toyota, and that is how they stopped defects from getting in the first place. And they went on to innovate to do all kind of interesting things, like they had dual threads, so that if one breaks, the other one quickly picks up and keep running. So they kept innovating, and now non-stop, without human intervention, you can produce almost around 99% of precision clothes, and that too with a very high pace. So let's try to bring it to the software development today. So how will you compare that approach to what we are trying to do here? Almost one thing we can say is, like, adding more people is not going to help, right? Do you guys agree with me? Will adding more people help us to solve the problem? Maybe it might solve some of the problem, but it triggers some other problem, right? Like the operating cost, whatever it is, right? So that's not the answer. So that is not how you want to approach testing. So how do you approach testing then? By mistake proofing the process, right? So by bringing quality into the process first, rather than thinking of it after the fact. So what kind of practices can help with that? Do you guys, can you guys suggest how we can bring in quality into the process first, at the very first stage? Can you guys tell me some techniques or some tips? Give me some tips to bring in quality to the very first stage. of software development process. Because before, it is like the testers wait until the development is completed in the waterfall or traditional approach, like everyone is busy with developing and the testers are busy with documenting things, test cases, so and so, and then the developer will throw the piece of software over the wall and the tester tests it and gives it back over the wall, right? So that will not work. So we need to bring in some quality practices into the process which could fix this. There are a lot of practices which we do right now which is actually able to solve these issues. Collaboration, amigo sessions, yeah, by putting in review process, by involving in planning, testing, test it before it develops. Yeah, test it before it develops. That is exactly what we need to do, right? We need to think about testing before we starting the development. And everyone in the team member should have that mindset, right? So we have a lot of techniques called TDD, BDD, test-driven development, behavior-driven development. What else? What else do we have? Automating the regression test. We can automate all the regression tests, right? So it's no more painful, right? So we can focus more into adding more value into the product side, right? And we can bring in continuous integration. So continuous integration is one way to check what is actually going in. Is mistake proven, right? It doesn't allow something to go forward if it's not good. So these are the things which we can do to bring in quality into the process first. So that should be the mindset. Being the person who is in the team who have the responsibility of quality, that should be the mindset we will be having, and we will be helping others to have that mindset, to have that same mindset, right? Okay, so it was a long story though. So before, it was like testing was a phase. I have my own board, I have my own column, I have my own rules, right? So now testing is an activity, just an activity. I am part of this board and I work along with the other team members, right? So before, the only responsibility of the tester was to find bugs and to break the machines, right? Break the system. But now we should focus more into preventing the bugs, right? So finding the right bugs at the right time, or helping the developer for the bug not to happen. So I know companies who even decide the appraisal based on the bugs logged by the testers. Can you believe that? Right? So I agree such organizations exist, but that is why people like we are here to help them out. So this should be our approach. We should not be focusing on finding the bugs. We should be focusing on helping the team members for preventing the bugs. Because developers normally are not good testers. Why? Because they will be anyways having that parental feeling towards what they have produced, right? It's my child, it's my baby. He's very nice. He will not beat you up, right? So, but we need to give them the correct warnings, the right alerts at times, and we need to help them to test things properly, maybe with the test cases or maybe with the acceptance criteria, whatever it is. So we should help to prevent bugs, and we should try to find bugs as early as possible, right? So before, it was like we were focusing to break the system, but now we should try to help to build the system, to build the right system, right? And before, only the tester was responsible for quality. The first question, whenever we have a production bug, the first question the manager is going to ask is, who tested it? I'm sure you guys might have heard it if you started working around 5 years back, maybe. And even now in some companies, they are. Who tested it, right? So the whole team should take the responsibility for quality. It's not just one person's responsibility. It's the entire team's responsibility, because we don't have any such role as a tester. We have only development team, right? So based on all these aspects, we can define a testing manifesto, just something like this. We value testing throughout or at the end. So testing should be a continuous process, starting from the inception stage, We should embrace the testing practices. We should embrace unit testing. We should implement continuous testing by continuous integration, all those kind of things. Even before the UI is developed, maybe the functionality is there, and we can start testing by testing the APIs, by automating the APIs, right? We can use tools like Postman, SOAP UI, whatever it is. We have a lot of tools right now to ease our work. So instead of doing hard work, you guys should concentrate on doing the smart work. So because nowadays only smart work matters, hard work doesn't matter. It will bring you results, but at the end you will be stressed out. You will be, you know what I mean, right? So then we should focus on, we value on preventing the bugs or finding the bugs. We value testing, understanding, our checking the functionality. So we should not have a checklist and just check, yeah, this is correct, this is correct, this is correct. So that should not be our approach. So we should be just testing, continuously testing, right? And to help us with this testing continuously, we need to automate a lot of things. And for that, we need to learn a lot of things. We cannot say that I'm the manual tester in this team. Maybe we need to hire an automation tester. There shouldn't be anything like that. If you want to do continuous testing, you also have to embrace continuous learning. You should learn, right? And we value building the best system over breaking the system. And we value the team responsibility for quality over the tester responsibility, right? Okay, so these are the principles of Agile testing. Like testing should be continuous. Tests are performed by the entire team. The simplified code testing should be done with unit testing or something like that. Test-driven approach should be there. Documentation should be less or minimal. And we should decrease the time of feedback response. The feedback response time is decreased. And there should be a continuous feedback mechanism through which we can improve continuously, right? So now, how to empower yourself with Agile? Let's forget testing, because we are on a team and we are not just testers. So how to empower yourself with Agile? Let me give you a few tips, right? So always aim to make someone's life easier along with ours. That's why I told you, like, we should focus on doing the smart work rather than doing hard work, right? And when you feel you can do more, just do it. Don't wait for anyone to give you or assign you a task. Just pick up the task and start doing it. And maybe you can just inform the team, like, I'll be working on this, I have finished with this, or maybe I have a blocker on this, maybe by that time I'll be picking up this stuff. So you should have that self-organized characteristics within you. So if you feel like you can do more, just do it. Don't wait for any assistance or don't wait for any orders. And whenever possible, talk to people face to face. Like I said in the beginning of this conversation, having face-to-face conversation is really important. But sorry that my cam is not working today and I cannot have face-to-face conversation with you guys. And don't assign task, assign trust. So trust is one of the primary thing which we need in the team to move forward, to move ahead with a proper alignment, right? And let people grow into their full potential, not grow into our predefined or prejudiced perception. We should let them free to grow up to their full potential. We should don't. I know companies where we have, like, he's just a junior. He doesn't need to handle automation right now, just like that. So there shouldn't be anything like this. Let them grow, let them learn, and always try to put actions into feedbacks, and try to do retrospective activities, action points, make action points, check it if that is done. If that is not done, do follow-ups, right? And give clear and realistic expectations and goals. So always believe less is more. So you should realize the value of focusing on single thing at one time. I know there are a lot of people who believes in multitasking. Even I was one among them before. Take a look at everything in front of you right now. If you're like me, you have got at least a few browser windows open, right? Each one loaded with tabs you need, maybe some YouTube videos, some music, some whatever it is. Your email inbox is getting filled up in the background. The Slack messages keeps popping up, right? and of course your phone. In other words, you're multitasking actually. So the problem is, and the fact is, there is no such thing as multitasking. So as multiple studies have confirmed, doing more than one task at the same time is a myth. People who think they can split their attention between multiple tasks at once are not actually getting more done. In fact, they're doing less, getting more stressed out, and performing worse when we compare to those who do single task. So this is what science says, right? Well, I think this is a topic for more debatable. We don't have that lecture time right now, so I'm just going on with some other stuffs. Maybe do what matters, like I said. So I have seen people struggling to create test plans, test strategies with 10, 20, 30 pages and all. So in Agile, this is one test strategy document which I had prepared for one of my client in Indonesia. They are one of the biggest insurance providers. So this is a one-page test strategy, right? So where you have the system names, you divided the testing into three, like must have. Must have means you should do it. Should have means once you do the must haves, you should do these things. This is the second priority items. And if you have more time, consider doing this. And we can include like the types of testing we need to run, like unit testing, integrations testing, system testing, integration testing, whatever it is. And we can map if it should be automated or it should be manual, or it should be both automated and manual, or if it's out of scope, or like what are the tools which we'll be going to use, what are the environments which we'll be going to use. So you can completely bring up a strategy pretty much in a good way in this one-page system, right? So I just want to give you a reference of this. So how does an Agile tester looks like? I think we already know right now, maybe moving from quality assurance towards quality assistance. So testers are the voice of the customers. So testers should know what the customer wants, right? So they are the first customer in the team. They should be acting as the first customer in the team. And they are the ones who need to work in closely with the product owner in and helping him or her in preparing the acceptance criteria, right? And in adding more details into the acceptance criteria, helping the BAs to validate things maybe. And testers should add focus into the team, because there are a lot of time where developers get distracted with a lot of things, and it's our responsibility to bring back the focus into the sprint goal or the task which you are working on, whatever it is, right? And testers should facilitate early classification of software expectations. As I said, you are the one who is going to be the first customer of the product within the team, and you need to have that clarity in terms of what are all the things that you can do with this product or whatever it is. So testers should be always testing in a different ways, sometimes automation, sometimes manual. And there is actually a myth called if we automate a lot of things, we can sit and relax, or maybe we can fire our testers. We don't need testers anymore, right? That's a complete myth. I even had an argument regarding this with one of the C-level of a company. So he was having this similar idea, like if we can automate everything, why do we need testers? So I just asked him just one question, like, okay, maybe you'll be able to automate everything in the test case, mentioned in the test case, but how will you automate the human thinking ability, the ability of a person to think, to go through a certain way, to test with different data, to test with different, like there are different ways for us to do testing. We cannot automate everything, right? So in my opinion, automation is a smart work we do so that we get more time to look into things, to look into the more important things manually. That is how I see it is. And yeah, testers ensure regression. Testers become full stack. As I said before, there shouldn't be like, I am just manual, I'm not automation, I don't know coding. I was a guy who was really frustrated with codings. I didn't like codings at all, but when I started doing it, it becomes more interesting, and it was not that rocket science. Anyone can learn, no problem. And testers understand that they are not the testers, they are part of the development team, right? So that is why I asked initially, like, what is the defect in the title of this topic. So this is like, Agile is not for testers, Agile is for everyone in the team, right? So I hope that part is clear right now, and that is the only thing which I wanted to make it clear for you guys, and the rest of the things will fall apart, I believe. Yeah, that's it from me. Thanks a lot, guys. Do you have any questions?
Okay, thank you so much, Anuraj. So let's take a look at the question. So that's the first question by Tristan Gomez. So he's asking, how do you avoid analysis paralysis when there's too much discussion about what might be? There's no time left to actually doing the work.
Okay. For that, I know if we are following Scrum, there are a lot of meetings associated with it, which we call as sprint planning, backlog grooming, all right. So I think you remember the first principle which I mentioned. The first thing you want to understand is that, let me just, yeah. So it is impossible to gather all the requirements at the beginning of a project. So it evolves from the team. So if you have a feeling like you are spending a lot of time in meetings or in discussions, what you should do is you should time box your discussions, right? They shouldn't be, discussion shouldn't go prolonged. You should time box it. For example, if it's sprint planning, it shouldn't take more than 2 hours, or 4 hours or 6 hours. Or if you're doing a discussion with anyone internally, just make sure you have a time box for that, and you only invite the people who really need it for that meeting, so that others can continue working on that. And apart from all these, I would also suggest to like, there are a lot of confusions maybe within the team, like what are the things we need to do, or what are the things we need to complete by the end of the sprint, or something like that. So what we normally recommend is to prepare a definition of done for the entire team. So before we start working on something, we define as a team what done's mean to us. So for different teams, it will be different, right? So for some teams, they might need to do unit testing. They might need to do, the developers might need to test everything prior to testers start testing, because we already have acceptance criteria mentioned in the story points. So there should be a common agreement made within the team, and there should be a definition of done within the team, so that all the team agrees this is how we will be considering a particular story as done, and this is how we will work as a team, and these are the things which we will ensure at the end will be completed. So yeah, I think you should time box first of all, and you should bring in the right level of details by adding proper acceptance criteria to the stories, so that things are more clear to the developers.
Okay, got it. All right. Next question by Amir. It looks like culture is a huge factor to start being agile in testing. How does one start the culture of whole team in testing?
Well, I would say culture is a huge factor to be agile, not just in testing. I have faced this issue when I was in Indonesia, because culture has a lot of things to do with being agile, because like in some regions, maybe we will be working in that hierarchical manner, because people always need that push to do something, right? But in Agile, what we try to bring up is to do the pull system. So whenever you are free, pull something from the backlog and start working on it, right? So yeah, we do have some cultural problems might affect the testing mindset. But as I said before, like if we can make some explicit policies stuff like definition of done upfront, like you are free to ask questions, you're free to, like people used to have that fear in mind to open up, right? So when there is a hierarchy, there is always a fear to open up what there is in your mind. So try to avoid that hierarchy first of all, and I would say we should have top down approach, not bottom up. So the change should start from top, not just from the team or not just from the testers, because it doesn't matter if the team is trying to be 100% agile and if the management is pulling them back. It doesn't make any sense, right? So we should have a top down approach for that. We should first make an alignment within the management and tell them like, this is how it's going to work, and this is what, instead of thinking what an agile testing team can do or what an agile testing team can give to the management should think like what we can give to that team so that they can work more effectively, right? So this mindset shift will of course take some time, and we need to have that patience for sure.
That's a nice answer. I think there's no more questions. All right. So I think that's about it for questions. So thank you so much, Anuraj, for spending your expertise and sharing your knowledge to us. So
thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot. It has been really great to be with you guys, and to I was also trying to learn from you guys a little bit of things from some discussions, but I know like with this pandemic situations and all, there are some limitations to have discussions here and there. I was trying to make this conversation more engaging, but yeah, we have some limitations. Let's try to do a physical conference or something later sometime.
That's right. Definitely, yeah. Nothing beats a physical conference, right? Those are the limitations of using this.
With some social distancing.
That's right. Let's hope all this pandemic ends soon. I saw a couple of news that we found a vaccine or something. Yeah, let's hope it's true.
Yeah, guys, please do share your feedbacks, and if you believe like I delivered some stupid things out of my knowledge, please let me know so that I can correct myself. And I really value your true feedbacks so that I can improve moving on,
yeah,
right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Okay. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.
Okay, guys, I think that's about it for today. So last but not least, before we call it off, I just want to make a small announcement here. So about this Ministry of Testing KL Meetup, we actually do it every second Tuesday of the month. So the next one will be on 8th September 2020. Hopefully it's in person, otherwise it's still going to be online. So speakers, volunteers, and sponsors are welcome. So if you guys feel that there's like some speakers you guys think that you guys would like to hear from, or even you guys would like to talk in this meetup, feel free to contact me or meet me or Amir. So you can just drop a chat, or you can just drop an email, or you can just type email. I think that's about it. I have to be stressed today, but I think it's worthwhile. So hope to see you guys on the next meetup. Thank you so much, guys.